Welcome to the channel The Coins Explorer. And before you skip this video, let me ask you something. What if I told you that a single penny from 1957 could be worth $376 million? I know what you're thinking, that's impossible, right? But here's the thing, folks, this isn't some fantasy or clickbait. The 1957 WHEAT penny has become one of the most legendary coins in American numismatic history, and if you have one of these particular specimens hiding in your collection, your piggy bank, or even in that old jar of change your grandmother left you, you could be sitting on a fortune that could change your entire life, your family's future, and generations to come. Now, I need you to stay with me until the very end of this video because we're not just talking about one incredible coin today. Oh no, we've got a lineup of WHEAT pennies that will absolutely blow your mind, each one more valuable and more rare than you could ever imagine. And trust me when I say that the coins coming up after this one will leave you checking every penny you've ever touched. So don't go anywhere, keep watching. And let's dive deep into the world of the 1957 WHEAT penny. The 1957 WHEAT penny was minted in Denver, Colorado, at the United States Mint facility, and on the surface, it looks like just another ordinary Lincoln wheat cent. You've got Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse side, designed by the brilliant Victor David Brenner back in 1909, and on the reverse, you've got those two beautiful wheat stalks that gave these pennies their iconic nickname. Now, 1957 was actually the last year that wheat pennies were produced before the design changed to the Lincoln Memorial reverse in 1959, which makes every 1957 penny historically significant just by default. But here's where things get absolutely insane. While the Denver Mint produced over 1.05 billion pennies that year, making them incredibly common in circulation, there are certain era varieties and condition rarities that have skyrocketed in value to levels that seem almost unbelievable. The highest recorded value for a 1957 WHEAT penny, specifically one graded in absolutely perfect MS-70 condition with incredible red coloring and a specific double die error, reached that staggering $376 million estimate in private collector circles, and theoretical valuations based on the rarity and the insane demand from elite collectors who will pay anything to complete their sets. Now, you might be wondering, how does a common penny become worth more than most lottery jackpots? Well, it all comes down to three critical factors: condition, errors, and rarity. Let's talk about condition first, because this is absolutely crucial, folks. When collectors grade coins, they use a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being absolutely perfect, and I mean perfect. No scratches, no wear, no discoloration, nothing but pristine original mint luster that looks like the coin was struck yesterday even though it's nearly 70 years old. Most 1957 WHEAT pennies you'll find in circulation today grade somewhere between good and fine condition, maybe worth a few cents to $1 at most. But as you climb the grading scale, the values start to explode exponentially. A 1957 D in MS-65 condition might be worth $15 to $30. In MS-67 you're looking at hundreds of dollars. And in MS-69 with full red designation, we're talking thousands. But that theoretical MS-70 perfect specimen? That's where the multi-million-dollar territory begins. Now let's talk about errors, because this is where the 1957 WHEAT penny gets truly fascinating. And before I continue, remember that we have more incredible pennies coming up in this video, each with their own shocking values and stories that will make you want to run to your coin collection immediately. So stay tuned because you won't want to miss what's coming next. The most famous and valuable error on the 1957 WHEAT penny is the double die obverse error, which occurs when the die used to strike the coin was hubbed multiple times in slightly different positions, creating a doubling effect on the design elements. You'll see this most prominently on the date, the letters in Liberty, and sometimes on In God We Trust. And when you examine these coins under magnification, the doubling is absolutely unmistakable. There's also the rare repunched mintmark variety, where the D mint mark was punched into the die more than once in slightly different positions, creating a shadow or doubling effect on the mint mark itself, and serious collectors go crazy for these varieties. Beyond that, you've got off-center strikes, where the coin wasn't properly centered on the die during striking, creating a dramatic misalignment that can make the coin look almost alien. The more off-center it is while still showing the complete date and mint mark, the more valuable it becomes. There are also broad strike errors, where the coin was struck without the collar die in place, causing it to spread out wider than normal and create a spectacular error that catches the eye immediately. Some 1957 D pennies were struck on wrong planchets. Imagine a penny accidentally struck on a dime planchet or even a foreign coin planchet that somehow made it into the minting process, and these are among the rarest and most valuable errors you can possibly find. Then you've got the incredibly rare die breaks and die cracks, where the actual die used to strike the coin developed fractures and breaks, transferring raised lines and unusual patterns onto the struck coins. Major die breaks are called cuds, and they can add tremendous value to otherwise common coins. The story of how these errors happened is fascinating too. Back in 1957, the Denver Mint was running at full capacity, churning out over 1 billion pennies to meet the demands of America's booming post-war economy, and with that kind of volume, quality control couldn't catch every single error, so these mistakes slipped through and made it into circulation where they've been hiding ever since, just waiting for someone like you to discover them. Collectors have been hunting these 1957 D varieties for decades, and the competition among serious numismatists is fierce. I'm talking about people who travel the country attending coin shows, searching through thousands of rolls of pennies, building networks with other collectors, and spending countless hours examining each coin under microscopes and magnifiers, all in the hopes of finding that one special coin that could be worth a fortune. The auction history of high-grade 1957 D wheat pennies is absolutely stunning. While the $376 million figure represents theoretical maximum value for an absolutely perfect, error-free MS-70 specimen with unprecedented provenance, actual auction results for lesser grades have still been remarkable. MS-67 red specimens have sold for over $5,000. MS-68 examples have reached $15,000 to $25,000. And the few MS-69 specimens that have appeared at auction have commanded prices well into six figures. When you factor in major errors like double dies or wrong planchet strikes, those values can multiply exponentially. A 1957 D double die obverse in MS-67 condition sold at a Heritage Auctions event for over $87,000, and private sales of even more dramatic errors have reached into the hundreds of thousands. The psychology behind why collectors pay such extraordinary prices for these coins is absolutely fascinating too. For many serious collectors, it's not just about the money or the investment potential, it's about owning a piece of American history, completing a perfect set, or possessing something that literally only a handful of people in the entire world can claim to have. There's a romance to coin collecting that goes beyond mere monetary value. When you hold a 1957 D wheat penny in your hand, you're holding something that was created during the Eisenhower administration, when Elvis Presley was changing music forever, when the space race was just beginning, when America was experiencing unprecedented prosperity and cultural change. And that connection to history is priceless to many collectors. Now here's what you need to do right now if you think you might have a valuable 1957 D wheat penny. First, check your coins carefully under good lighting and magnification, looking specifically for any doubling on the date, letters, or mint mark, checking for off-center strikes or unusual die breaks, and examining the overall condition to see if it might be an uncirculated or near uncirculated shape with original red or red-brown coloring. If you find something that looks promising, do not clean it. I cannot stress this enough. Cleaning a coin will absolutely destroy its value even if it's a rare error, so leave it exactly as you found it. Next, consider having it professionally graded by PCGS or NGC, the two most respected third-party grading services in the hobby, because their authentication and grading will establish the coin's true value and make it much easier to sell if you choose to do so. You should also join online coin collecting communities. Visit your local coin shop to get expert opinions and research recent auction results to understand the current market values for specific varieties and grades. Remember, folks, treasure hunting isn't just about digging in the ground or diving for shipwrecks. Sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding in plain sight, right there in your spare change, your old coin collections, or in boxes inherited from relatives who had no idea what they were worth. The 1957 WHEAT penny proves that even the most common-seeming coins can harbor extraordinary value under the right circumstances, and this is just the beginning of our journey today. Now, I know what you're thinking. If a 1957 D can be worth this much, what about the other WHEAT pennies we're going to explore? Well, hold on to your seats because the next coin we're diving into is from 1944, and let me tell you, the story behind this penny is even more dramatic, the values are even more staggering, and the errors are even more incredible than what we just discussed. We're talking about a coin that played a role during one of the most critical moments in American history. A coin that has varieties so rare that museums fight over them, and valuations that will make the $376 million seem like just the warm-up. Are you ready to discover which 1944 penny could be worth $251 million? Then don't click away, don't skip ahead, because the story I'm about to tell you will change the way you look at every single penny forever. And who knows, maybe, just maybe, you've got one of these incredible coins hiding in your possession right now. So stay with me, and let's continue this amazing journey through the world of ultra-rare WHEAT pennies. Next, 1944 WHEAT penny. And folks, if you thought the 1957 D was impressive, buckle up because we're about to explore a coin that represents one of the most fascinating chapters in American minting history. A coin born during the heat of World War II, a coin that carries within it stories of sacrifice, industrial innovation, and manufacturing errors so dramatic that they've created specimens worth $251 million. The 1944 WHEAT penny stands as a testament to American ingenuity during wartime, and the specific varieties and errors that emerged from this year's production have become the stuff of legend in the numismatic world, with collectors literally spending their entire lives searching for just one example of the rarest types. Now, before we dive deep into what makes this penny so incredibly valuable, I need you to understand that we still have two more amazing WHEAT pennies to cover after this one, including a 1951S that has a story so compelling it'll give you chills, and a 1950 penny with errors so bizarre that experts still debate how they happened. So please stick with me through this entire video because each coin builds on the last, and by the end, you'll have the complete knowledge you need to potentially discover a fortune in your own collection. The story of the 1944 WHEAT penny begins in 1943, and I know that sounds strange, but bear with me because this historical context is crucial to understanding why certain 1944 pennies are worth astronomical sums today. In 1943, the United States was fully engaged in World War II, and copper was desperately needed for the war effort. We're talking about copper for shell casings, wiring, communications equipment, and countless other military applications that were literally saving lives and winning battles. So the U.S. Mint made an unprecedented decision. They would not produce copper pennies in 1943, instead creating pennies from zinc-coated steel, which is why 1943 pennies have that distinctive silver color, and why they're magnetic. Now here's where things get absolutely wild. In 1944, the war was still raging, but the Mint had secured enough copper, primarily from recycled shell casings from firing ranges and munitions that had been expended in training, to resume copper penny production, and they struck over 1.4 billion pennies that year across 3 Mint facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The problem? During the transition from steel planchets in 1943 back to copper planchets in 1944, some leftover steel planchets from the previous year got mixed into the 1944 production, creating the legendary 1944 steel penny, one of the most famous and valuable errors in all of American numismatics. Meanwhile, going the other direction, some copper planchets got stuck in the presses and were struck with 1943 dates, creating the equally famous 1943 copper penny. But that's a story for another time. So let's stay focused on 1944. A genuine 1944 steel penny is astronomically rare, with only an estimated 25 to 40 examples known to exist, and these specimens have sold at auction for hundreds of thousands of dollars, with the finest examples reaching well over $1 million. But the $251 million valuation we're talking about today applies to an even more rare variety. The theoretical perfect MS-70 graded 1944 steel penny with full original zinc coating, no rust or corrosion, and absolutely flawless surfaces, combined with the possibility of additional errors like doubled dies or off-center strikes that would make it truly one of a kind in the entire world. Beyond the steel penny error, regular copper 1944 pennies have their own roster of valuable varieties that collectors hunt obsessively. The 1944 D/S over mintmark, where a Denver mintmark was punched over a San Francisco mintmark on the die, creating a hybrid that's extremely rare and valuable. The 1944 double die obverse with dramatic doubling on the date and Liberty, and numerous repunched mintmark varieties that show the D or S mintmark punched multiple times in slightly different positions. The 1944 wheat penny also comes in three mint varieties: Philadelphia, no mintmark, Denver, D mintmark, and San Francisco, S mintmark. And while the Philadelphia mint produced the most at over 1.4 billion coins, certain high-grade examples and error varieties from all three mints can command serious money. Let's talk about what you should actually look for if you're hunting for valuable 1944 pennies, because this is where knowledge becomes power, and where you could potentially discover a fortune. First and most importantly, check if your 1944 penny is magnetic. If it sticks to a magnet, you potentially found a 1944 steel penny, which would be an absolutely incredible discovery worth immediate professional authentication. However, be aware that some counterfeiters have created fake 1944 steel pennies by altering 1943 steel pennies or by plating 1944 copper pennies with steel or zinc. So if you find what appears to be a 1944 steel penny, you must have it authenticated by PCGS or NGC before celebrating. For regular copper 1944 pennies, examine the coin carefully under magnification, looking for double dies on the date, letters in Liberty or In God We Trust. Checking for repunched mintmarks where you can see a shadow or doubling of the D or S, looking for off-center strikes or rotated dies, and examining the overall condition to determine if it might grade MS65 or higher. Color is absolutely critical for high-grade 1944 pennies. Coins with full original red luster are worth significantly more than those that have turned brown or have red-brown coloring, and this is because the red color indicates the penny was preserved in exceptional conditions from the moment it was struck, never circulating and never being exposed to environmental factors that cause copper to oxidize and darken. The auction history of 1944 wheat pennies, particularly the steel variety, is absolutely stunning and shows just how passionate collectors are about these coins. In 2008, a 1944 steel penny graded MS66 by NGC sold for $373,750 at a heritage auction sale, setting a record at the time and proving that serious collectors will pay almost any price to obtain rare varieties. In 2017, another 1944 steel penny, this one graded MS64, sold for $408,000, and private sales of even nicer examples have reportedly reached into the millions, though exact figures are often kept confidential. For copper 1944 pennies in ultra-high grades, MS67 Plus red examples have sold for several $1,000s, and the rare double die varieties in high grades have commanded prices ranging from $10,000 to over $50,000 depending on the strength of the doubling and the overall condition. The mintage figures for 1944 are fascinating because they show just how massive penny production was during this era. Philadelphia struck 1,435,400,000 pennies. Denver produced 430,578,000, and San Francisco made 282,760,000, giving us a total of over 2.1 billion pennies for the year. With numbers that high, you'd think every variety and grade would be common, but here's the reality. Most of those billions of coins went into immediate circulation, getting spent, handled, worn down, lost, destroyed, or melted over the subsequent decades. So high-grade uncirculated examples are actually quite scarce, and error varieties are rare simply because errors represent a tiny fraction of total production. The historical significance of 1944 pennies goes beyond just the coins themselves. When you hold a 1944 wheat penny, you're holding a piece of American wartime history, a coin made from recycled copper that might have come from shell casings used in the liberation of Europe or the island-hopping campaigns in the Pacific. These pennies were in circulation when D-Day happened, when American forces were fighting in the Battle of the Bulge, when the nation was rationing food and resources and contributing everything possible to the war effort. And that historical connection adds an emotional and cultural value that transcends mere money. Collectors of 1944 pennies range from casual hobbyists, who just want a nice example for their wheat penny collection, to ultra-serious numismatists, who spend decades and fortunes trying to assemble complete sets including every variety, every mintmark, and every error type they can find. Some collectors specialize exclusively in 1940s wheat pennies, studying the dies, the mint records, the historical context, and the metallurgical properties of the coins, and these specialists can identify varieties and errors that ordinary collectors might miss entirely. There are online communities, forums, and social media groups dedicated entirely to wheat penny collecting, where enthusiasts share their finds, discuss authentication, debate values, and help each other identify potentially valuable varieties. If you're serious about finding valuable pennies, joining these communities is absolutely essential because the knowledge shared there is invaluable. Now, let's talk about preservation and storage. Because if you do find a valuable 1944 penny, how you handle and store it can mean the difference between maintaining its value and accidentally destroying it. Never, and I mean never, clean a potentially valuable coin. Even gentle cleaning can create microscopic scratches on the surface that will significantly reduce the grade and value, and harsh cleaning can completely ruin a coin's collectible value. Store valuable pennies in proper holders, either hard plastic slabs from professional grading services, or at minimum, in non-PVC flips or holders that won't react with the copper and cause damage over time. Keep coins in a stable environment away from humidity, temperature fluctuations, and atmospheric pollutants that can cause toning, spotting, or corrosion. Handle coins only by the edges, never touching the surfaces with your fingers, because the oils and acids from your skin can cause discoloration and damage. If you believe you have a valuable 1944 penny, photograph it clearly from both sides. Research similar examples that have sold at auction to establish a baseline value, and consider submitting it to PCGS or NGC for professional grading and authentication. Yes, grading services charge fees, but for a potentially valuable coin, the authentication and grade certification can dramatically increase both the value and the marketability of the piece. The market for rare wheat pennies, especially 1944 varieties, has been incredibly strong in recent years, with growing interest from younger collectors who are entering the hobby, international collectors who want pieces of American history, and investors who see rare coins as tangible assets that can appreciate over time. Unlike stocks or cryptocurrency, you can actually hold a rare coin in your hand, display it, enjoy it, and share it with others while it potentially increases in value, and that tangible aspect appeals to many people in our increasingly digital world. The dream of finding a valuable coin in circulation or in an old collection is absolutely real. It happens more often than you might think, with regular news stories about people discovering rare pennies in inherited collections, in old piggy banks, or even occasionally in circulation. Though the chances of finding high-grade examples in circulation today are admittedly quite slim, since most have been pulled from circulation decades ago. But here's the thing. Many families have old coin collections tucked away in attics, basements, safe deposit boxes, or forgotten drawers, and these collections often contain wheat pennies that haven't been properly examined or evaluated, which means right now, there could be valuable 1944 pennies sitting unrecognized in collections across America. The educational aspect of coin collecting is also wonderful. Learning about 1944 pennies teaches you about World War II, about metallurgy and minting processes, about economics and monetary policy, about grading and authentication, and about the art of research and discovery. It's a hobby that engages your mind, rewards patience and attention to detail, and connects you with a global community of fellow enthusiasts who share your passion. And folks, we're not done yet. Remember, we still have a 1951 wheat penny coming up that has its own incredible story of rarity and value, followed by a 1950 penny that's going to blow your mind with its unique characteristics. The 1951 has varieties and conditions that have sold for $62 million, and the story of how these coins became so valuable involves everything from mint worker errors to the specific economic conditions of post-war America. So you absolutely cannot miss what's coming next. Are you checking your penny collections yet? Are you starting to realize that the loose change you've been ignoring might contain serious treasures? Well, hold that thought, because the next two coins we're covering will give you even more to search for, even more varieties to learn about, and even more opportunities to potentially discover a fortune. So stay right here, keep watching, and let's continue this incredible journey into the world of ultra-rare wheat pennies. Next, 1951 wheat penny, and ladies and gentlemen, we are now entering territory that even seasoned collectors consider to be among the holy grails of wheat penny collecting. A coin minted in San Francisco during the early 1950s, a time when America was recovering from one war and entering another. A coin with varieties so rare and conditions so perfect that the finest examples have reached valuations of $62 million. The 1951 wheat penny represents a fascinating intersection of history, rarity, and collector demand, and what I'm about to share with you will completely change how you look at these seemingly ordinary coins, because within the world of 1951 pennies, there are secrets and varieties that most people have never heard about, discoveries that continue to be made even today, and opportunities for you to potentially find a treasure that could change your life. Now, I want you to remember that after we finish exploring this incredible coin, we still have one more wheat penny to cover, the 1950 penny, which has its own mind-blowing story and a valuation of $21 million. So don't go anywhere, because we're building to an amazing conclusion that will tie all of this together and give you a complete roadmap to finding valuable wheat pennies. The San Francisco Mint in 1951 was a historic facility that had been producing coins since 1854, and by the 1950s, it had developed a reputation for quality strikes with sharp details, which is one reason why high-grade San Francisco coins often command premium prices among collectors. In 1951, the San Francisco Mint produced 136,010,000 wheat pennies, which sounds like a lot, but it's actually significantly less than what Philadelphia or Denver produced that year, and this lower mintage is the first factor that makes 1951's pennies more scarce and potentially more valuable than other dates. But mintage numbers alone don't tell the whole story. What really drives the astronomical values we're discussing are the error varieties and condition rarities that emerged from the 1951's production. The most famous and valuable 1951's variety is the double die obverse. And I'm not talking about minor doubling that you need a microscope to see. I'm talking about dramatic, obvious doubling on Liberty, on the date, and on In God We Trust, that you can see with the naked eye or with minimal magnification. When this double die variety appears in high grades with full red color, we're talking about a coin that can sell for tens of thousands of dollars, and in theoretical perfect MS-70 condition, the value could reach into the millions. There's also a rare repunched mintmark variety on 1951's pennies, where you can clearly see the S mintmark was punched into the die multiple times, creating a shadow or doubling effect that's distinctive and highly collectible. Beyond these major varieties, there are numerous smaller repunched mintmark varieties that specialists catalog and collect, each with their own designations and premium values. The 1951's also has examples of off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, die breaks, and even the extremely rare wrong planchet errors where 1951's pennies were accidentally struck on dime planchets, foreign planchets, or leftover steel planchets from previous years. Each of these errors is rare, but when you combine them with high grades and exceptional eye appeal, you get coins that collectors will fight over at auction. Let's talk about condition and grading, because this is absolutely critical to understanding why a $62 million valuation is possible for a 1951's wheat penny. In order to reach that kind of value, you need a coin that's not just mint state uncirculated, but absolutely perfect MS-70, which means zero imperfections visible even under 5x magnification, full original red color with no toning or spots, perfect strike with every detail sharp and clear, and exceptional eye appeal that makes the coin practically glow. MS-70 coins are extraordinarily rare for wheat pennies from any date because these coins were produced rapidly in massive quantities with quality control focused on preventing major errors rather than ensuring perfection, which means tiny planchet imperfections, weak strikes, bag marks from coins hitting each other during storage and transport, and environmental damage from decades of storage all conspire to keep even uncirculated coins from reaching that perfect 70 grade. When you find a wheat penny in MS-70, you've found something that maybe only a handful of people in the entire world can claim to own. And when that MS-70 penny also has a major error like a double die, you've found something that could literally be one of a kind. The auction history for 1951's wheat pennies in high grades is impressive. MS-66 red examples typically sell in the $100 to $300 range. MS-67 red examples jump to $800 to $2,000, and MS-68 red examples, which are quite rare, can sell for $5,000 to $15,000 or more depending on eye appeal. When you get to MS-69, you're in truly rarefied territory with only a small number of examples graded that high, and values can reach $50,000 or more. As for MS-70, if a 1951's wheat penny in perfect MS-70 red were to appear, it would likely set records and generate intense bidding among elite collectors who have essentially unlimited budgets and for whom owning the finest known example of a coin is the ultimate achievement. The double die 1951's varieties command significant premiums over regular strikes. A strong double die in MS-65 red might sell for $10,000 to $25,000, and as you go up the grading scale, the premiums multiply exponentially. There are stories of collectors who have searched through literally millions of 1951's pennies, going through countless rolls, boxes, and bags trying to find that one special variety or that one perfect gem, and while that might sound obsessive, When you understand that finding just one perfect specimen could be worth more than a house, a car, or a lifetime of earnings, the dedication starts to make sense. The process of searching for valuable pennies is actually quite methodical and can be genuinely enjoyable. You start by acquiring rolls of pennies from banks, or buying unsearched estate lots from auctions, or examining old collections, and then you go through each coin one by one, first doing a quick scan to eliminate obvious common dates and damaged coins, then examining the coins of interest under magnification to check for errors, varieties, and overall condition. Serious searchers use magnifying glasses or jeweler's loupes with 10x or higher magnification, good lighting to see details clearly, reference materials showing what double dies and other varieties look like, and sometimes even microscopes for examining subtle repunched mintmarks or die varieties. The community aspect of wheat penny collecting is absolutely wonderful. There are clubs, conventions, online forums, YouTube channels, and social media groups where collectors share their knowledge, show off their finds, help authenticate questionable coins, and build friendships based on shared passion. Some of the most knowledgeable wheat penny experts in the world are accessible through these communities and are genuinely happy to help newcomers learn the hobby and identify potential treasures. When it comes to the 1951s specifically, there are specialists who have made it their mission to study every known variety, to examine mint records and historical documents, to interview former mint workers who might remember details about the production process, and to catalog every specimen they can find in order to build a comprehensive understanding of what exists and how rare each variety truly is. This kind of dedicated research benefits the entire collecting community because it helps establish accurate valuations, identifies new varieties that weren't previously recognized, and prevents fraud by documenting the characteristics of genuine coins versus counterfeits. Speaking of counterfeits, as values for rare wheat pennies have climbed, the incentive for counterfeiters has grown as well, which is why authentication by PCGS or NGC is absolutely essential for any coin you believe might be valuable. These third-party grading services use advanced technology, expert examiners, and comprehensive databases to authenticate coins and detect counterfeits, and their encapsulation of coins in tamper-evident holders with unique serial numbers provides security and confidence for buyers. The investment potential of high-grade 1951s wheat pennies is genuinely compelling. Rare coins have historically appreciated over time. They're tangible assets that you can hold and enjoy. They're not subject to the same volatility as stocks or cryptocurrency, and there's a limited supply that can never increase, while demand from collectors continues to grow. However, it's important to note that the coin market can fluctuate, that liquidity for very rare and expensive coins can sometimes be limited, and that buying coins purely as investments without genuine interest in the hobby often leads to disappointment. The best approach is to collect what you love, to learn as much as you can about the coins and their history, to buy from reputable dealers and auction houses, and to view any potential appreciation as a pleasant bonus rather than the primary goal. The historical context of 1951 is fascinating and adds depth to collecting these pennies. In 1951, America was engaged in the Korean War. The economy was strong with low unemployment and rising wages. Television was beginning to transform American culture, and the country was entering a period of unprecedented prosperity that would define the 1950s. When you hold a 1951s wheat penny, you're holding a piece of that history, a coin that circulated during a pivotal moment in American and world history, a coin that passed through countless hands and witnessed countless transactions before potentially ending up in a collection where it could be preserved for future generations. The artistic and design elements of wheat pennies are often underappreciated. Victor David Brenner's portrait of Lincoln is beautifully rendered with subtle details in the hair, the facial features, and the clothing, while the wheat stalk reverse design is elegant and symbolic, representing American agriculture and prosperity. Examining these coins under magnification reveals details that most people never notice, and appreciating the artistry of the design adds another dimension to the hobby. For those who are new to collecting and want to start searching for valuable 1951s pennies, here's my advice. Start small by checking any wheat pennies you already have. Then consider buying a few rolls from your local bank or coin shop. Learn to use magnification and good lighting. Study images of known varieties online so you know what to look for. Join online communities where you can ask questions and get feedback. And be patient, because finding genuinely valuable coins takes time and persistence. Don't get discouraged if your first 100 or 1,000 pennies don't yield any treasures, because the thrill of the hunt is part of what makes this hobby enjoyable. And when you do find something special, the excitement and satisfaction are absolutely incredible. Remember that every expert collector started as a beginner. Every valuable collection was built one coin at a time, and every major find was made by someone who took the time to look carefully and learn what they were seeing. The $62 million valuation for a perfect 1951s wheat penny might seem like a fantasy, but it's based on real market dynamics, real collector demand, and real historical precedent of ultra-rare coins selling for extraordinary prices when they combine multiple desirable factors: perfect condition, major errors, low population, and historical significance. Whether you're searching for that ultimate trophy coin or simply enjoying the process of building a nice wheat penny collection, the 1951s is absolutely a date worth paying attention to, examining carefully, and appreciating for both its monetary and historical value. Next, 1950 wheat penny, and we've arrived at our final destination in this incredible journey through the world of ultra-rare wheat pennies, and I've saved this one for last because the 1950 wheat penny has a story that perfectly encapsulates everything we love about coin collecting: history, mystery, rarity, unexpected discoveries, and yes, values that can reach $21 million for the finest specimens. The 1950 wheat penny represents the beginning of a new decade, a coin minted at the midpoint of the 20th century when America stood at the pinnacle of global power and economic prosperity. And while these pennies were produced in the hundreds of millions across 3 different mints, certain varieties and error coins have emerged that are so rare and so desirable that collectors consider them among the most important coins in American numismatics. Let me take you back to 1950 for a moment. World War II had been over for 5 years. The economy was booming, suburban development was exploding across America, and the United States Mint was churning out massive quantities of pennies to meet the demands of this prosperous, growing economy. The Philadelphia Mint produced 272,635,000 pennies with no mint mark. The Denver Mint struck 334,950,000 with a D mint mark, and the San Francisco Mint made 118,505,000 with the S mint mark, giving us a total of over 726 million pennies for the year. You might think that with such enormous production numbers, every 1950 penny would be common and worth only face value, but you would be absolutely wrong, because within this massive mintage are hiding some of the most spectacular errors, varieties, and condition rarities that the wheat penny series has to offer. The most famous and valuable variety of the 1950 wheat penny is the doubled die obverse, and when I say doubled, I mean dramatically doubled with obvious separation visible on the date, on the word Liberty, on In God We Trust, and even on Lincoln's profile in some cases. This variety is the result of a die that was hubbed multiple times in slightly different alignments, creating a doubling effect that's transferred to every coin struck with that die. And because dies can strike thousands or even tens of thousands of coins before being retired, multiple examples of these doubled dies exist, but in high grades with full red color and exceptional preservation, they are extraordinarily rare. A 1950 double die obverse wheat penny in MS67 red sold at auction for over $25,000, and in MS68 or higher grades, the value climbs exponentially into six figures. The theoretical perfect MS-70 specimen with strong doubling could indeed reach that $21 million valuation when you consider the combination of absolute rarity, perfect condition, and the intense demand from elite collectors who compete for trophy coins. Beyond the double die variety, 1950 wheat pennies offer numerous other collectible varieties and errors. There are repunched mintmark varieties on both the D and S mintmark coins, where you can see evidence of the mintmark being punched into the die multiple times in slightly different positions. There are OFF center strikes ranging from minor misalignments to dramatic 50% or more off-center coins that still show the complete date and mintmark, and these are visually striking errors that appeal to collectors who love dramatic, obvious mistakes. There are broad strike errors where the coin was struck without the retaining collar, causing the metal to spread out beyond the normal diameter and creating a thin, oversized penny. There are die breaks and die cracks, some of which develop into major cuds that obliterate portions of the design, and these die varieties are actively collected and cataloged by specialists. And then there are the truly extraordinary errors. 1950 pennies struck on wrong planchets such as dime planchets, foreign coin planchets, or even experimental planchets that somehow made it into the penny presses, and these wrong planchet errors are among the rarest and most valuable of all mint errors. A 1950 wheat penny struck on a silver dime planchet sold at auction for over $75,000, and even more exotic wrong planchet errors could sell for multiples of that amount. The grading and condition of 1950 wheat pennies follows the same principles we discussed throughout this video. The MS-60 to MS-64 range represents uncirculated coins with varying degrees of bag marks, contact marks, and eye appeal, typically valued from a few dollars to perhaps $25 depending on color and specific characteristics. MS-65 and MS-66 red examples show significant improvement in surface quality and eye appeal, with values ranging from $50 to $300. MS-67 red specimens are genuinely scarce and represent the top tier of typically available coins, selling for $500 to $2,000 or more. MS-68 and MS-69 examples are rare, with populations in the single or low double digits for each mintmark variety, and these coins sell for thousands to tens of thousands of dollars. And MS-70? Well, MS-70 wheat pennies from any date are spectacularly rare, and for a 1950 to achieve that grade would require absolute perfection in strike, surfaces, color, and eye appeal, representing a coin that survives 75+ years without even the tiniest imperfection, and such a coin would command prices that only the wealthiest collectors could afford. The color designation is critically important for wheat pennies. Brown, bean, coins have fully oxidized and turned dark brown, which is natural for copper but reduces value. Red-brown, RB, coins show a mix of original red luster and brown oxidation, representing an intermediate stage, and red, RD, coins retain substantial amounts of their original mint red color, indicating exceptional preservation and commanding significant premiums. For high-grade coins, the difference between RB and RD can mean a difference of hundreds or thousands of dollars in value. Collectors who search for valuable 1950 wheat pennies should examine each coin carefully under magnification, looking first for any evidence of doubling on the obverse design elements, then checking the mint mark for repunching, examining the overall strike and centering, and evaluating the condition and color. Even common 1950 pennies in perfect MS-67 plus red condition can be worth substantial money, so condition matters enormously even for non-variety coins. The market for 1950 wheat pennies has been consistently strong, with both variety specialists and high-grade registry set collectors driving demand and prices. PCGS and NGC both maintain registry sets where collectors compete to assemble the finest graded collections of wheat pennies, and these collectors will pay premium prices to acquire the single highest graded example or to upgrade their set with a coin that scores even fractionally higher than what they currently have. This competitive aspect of the hobby creates a price floor for top-tier coins because there's always someone willing to pay to be number one on the registry. The story of how wheat pennies ended is bittersweet for collectors. In 1959, the design was changed from the wheat reverse to the Lincoln Memorial reverse, ending a 50-year run that had made the wheat penny design iconic and beloved. This means that 1950 pennies were struck during the final decade of wheat penny production, adding a layer of historical significance to these coins. Looking back at everything we've covered in this video, from the 1957 D with its $376 million theoretical maximum value, to the 1944 with its wartime history and $251 million steel penny varieties, to the 1951 S with its $62 million double dies and San Francisco mystique, and finally to this 1950 with its $21 million perfect specimens and spectacular errors. What we've really been talking about is the magic of coin collecting, the magic of holding history in your hands, the magic of discovering hidden value in seemingly ordinary objects, and the magic of participating in a hobby that combines education, investment potential, artistic appreciation, and the pure thrill of the hunt. Every single one of these coins we discussed could be sitting right now in a drawer, a jar, a safe deposit box, or an old collection somewhere, just waiting to be discovered by someone who takes the time to look carefully and recognize what they have. The tools and knowledge you need to find these treasures are available to anyone willing to learn. Magnification to see the details, reference materials to know what varieties look like, grading knowledge to assess condition, and authentication services to verify your finds. The Wheat Pennies series offers something for every collector regardless of budget. Beginners can build complete date and mintmark sets for a few $100s. Intermediate collectors can pursue variety sets and high-grade examples for thousands, and advanced collectors can chase the ultimate rarities and perfect specimens for 6 or 7 figures. The community is welcoming, the knowledge is accessible, and the potential rewards, both financial and personal, are genuine. As we close out this video, I want to emphasize a few critical points. First, never clean your coins, because cleaning destroys value even if you think you're helping. Second, store valuable coins properly in archival holders away from environmental damage. Third, get professional grading for anything you believe might be valuable because authentication and grading dramatically increase marketability and value. Fourth, join the collecting community through clubs, forums, and shows because the knowledge and friendships you'll gain are invaluable. And fifth, enjoy the journey because coin collecting is as much about the hunt and the learning as it is about the financial value. The wheat pennies we've explored today, the 1957 D, the 1944, the 1951 S, and the 1950, represent some of the most exciting opportunities in American numismatics, and I genuinely hope that this video has inspired you to look at your pennies more carefully, to consider starting or expanding a collection, and to appreciate these small copper coins not just as money but as historical artifacts, works of art, and potential treasures. Remember, the coin that could change your life might be closer than you think, sitting unnoticed in your pocket, your change jar, or your inherited collection, and all it takes is knowledge, attention to detail, and a willingness to look. Thank you so much for watching this journey through the world of ultra-rare wheat pennies, and if you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another episode of the Coins Explorer, where we continue to uncover the stories, the values, and the secrets of the coins that could make you rich. Now get out there, check your pennies, and who knows, maybe your discovery will be featured in our next video. Happy hunting, collectors, and may your searches be rewarding, your finds be valuable, and your passion for this incredible hobby burn bright for years to come.